Have you ever felt like relationships just got more complicated with age, when really they should be getting simpler? You reach a point in life where you just want peace, good company, honest conversations, and the freedom to be yourself without the drama, the confusion, or the stress. And yet, sometimes it still feels like you're walking on eggshells, trying to keep things together that maybe shouldn't be so hard in the first place. If that sounds familiar, you're not alone. As we get older, our priorities shift. We've lived through enough to know that time is too precious to waste on misunderstandings, guilt trips, or relationships that leave us drained instead of lifted. So today, let's talk about something that could truly lighten your emotional load and make your days feel more meaningful. Simplifying your relationships. Because the truth is, you don't need dozens of friends or a calendar packed with social obligations to feel loved and connected. What you really need are genuine, easy, heartwarming connections that bring you joy, not tension. In this video, we're going to talk about 7 practical ways to simplify relationships in your life. And I don't mean cutting everyone off or going off to live on a mountaintop. Though hey, if that sounds good to you, go for it. No, this is about gentle, thoughtful steps that help you build stronger, more peaceful relationships with others and with yourself. Let's start with something simple, but incredibly powerful. Learning to say no without guilt. Now, I know, for a lot of us, especially if you grew up in a generation where politeness was drilled into your DNA, saying no can feel rude, selfish even. But think about how many times you've agreed to something you really didn't want to do. An event, a favor, a phone call, just because you didn't want to let someone down. And afterward, you felt tired, resentful, or just plain annoyed with yourself. That's not connection, that's obligation. Saying no doesn't have to be cold or hurtful. It can be kind and clear. You don't have to explain your entire life story or apologize over and over. A simple, "Thank you for thinking of me, but I'm going to pass this time," can be enough. And if someone pushes back or tries to guilt you, that's not about you. That's about their own discomfort with boundaries. The beautiful part is, the more you say no when you mean no, the more room you create in your life for the yes that matter. The visits with your grandkids that actually fill your heart. The quiet mornings with your coffee and favorite book. The conversations that leave you feeling lighter, not heavier. When you protect your time and energy, you make space for the relationships that really nourish you. And speaking of nourishing relationships, let's talk about being honest, gently honest. At this stage in life, you've earned the right to speak your truth, but there's an art to honesty. Some people think being real means being blunt or harsh, but you know better. You've lived long enough to understand that words carry weight, and how you say something is just as important as what you say. Simplifying your relationships doesn't mean spilling every opinion the moment it comes into your head. It means choosing honesty that builds trust instead of tension. For example, if a friend or a family member does something that bothers you, you don't need to let it simmer and stew for weeks. And you also don't need to explode. A calm, sincere conversation, maybe something like, "I felt hurt when you canceled without letting me know. I just want to share that," can clear the air in ways that passive-aggressive silence or loud arguments never could. And let me tell you, people respect honesty when it comes from a place of care. You're not trying to control them or win an argument. You're just being real in a way that allows a relationship to breathe. That kind of openness makes everything feel lighter. You're not tiptoeing around, guessing what someone's feeling, or pretending everything's fine when it isn't. You're just being you and letting others be themselves too. That brings us to something else that can bring a huge sense of relief. Stop chasing people. This one might feel a little tender, but it's important. Have you ever felt like you were always the one reaching out? Calling first, making plans, checking in? Maybe you've wondered, would they ever call if I didn't? That feeling can be hard to sit with, especially if it involves family or longtime friends. But here's something freeing to remember. Healthy relationships are a two-way street. If someone consistently makes you feel like an afterthought, it's okay to stop trying so hard. That doesn't mean you're giving up on them. It means you're giving yourself permission to stop begging for attention or effort that should be mutual. Because you deserve relationships where you're wanted, not tolerated. And when you stop chasing, something surprising happens. You find out who really values you. Some people might step up, others might drift away. Either way, you're left with relationships that are clearer, cleaner, and more real. It's not about keeping score. It's about knowing your worth and honoring it. When you stop pouring your energy into people who don't return it, you suddenly have more to give to those who do. You feel less exhausted, less anxious, and more connected to the people who truly care. Now, don't worry if this all feels like a big shift. Simplifying your relationships isn't about making one huge change overnight. It's a gentle process, one that honors where you are in life and where you want to go. And believe me, every small step you take toward peace and clarity in your relationships will pay off in ways you can feel deeply. Less stress, more joy, and a stronger sense of who you are. Now that we've touched on how saying no, being gently honest, and letting go of one-sided relationships can simplify your life,